Hello, my name is Tobias Heiler and I'm one of the founders of BrainBoost. In this webinar, we will show you how you can now customize your protocols even more. For example, you can build your own ratio, like theta-beta ratio, but you can also build a ratio with custom frequency bands. Also, we will show you how you can customize cognitive tests. For example, the CPT test, you can now decide how many figures you want to show, how long they should be shown. So you can now individualize a lot and many things in the BrainAssistant and tests. Have fun using them.
Let's get started. As always, we are continuously connecting new hardware devices. We are working on one right now that might be might be connected the next time I'm going to do a webinar. So stay tuned. We'll see that the BrainAssistant family grows, right? So today's topic, cognitive tests and advanced protocols 2.0. So today is going to be about stuff you hopefully use daily business using our BrainAssistant. And of course, we continuously have mentoring sessions, trainings, and we're always happy about feedback that we get. So we continuously also working on the little things. Sometimes you get huge updates, sometimes it's just tiny improvements. And today I want to talk about improvements that I think people I know in this call, they all have been talking about this. So let's see. Let's first talk about cognitive tests. As you might have guessed, it's going to be about two different things, protocols and tests. So cognitive tests, just a short reminder, in our BrainAssistant, we have 4 cognitive tests. If you haven't done all of those, then please do so. I'm going to show you as well how to start them without a flow. So if people think, oh, I can just start them using a flow. No, you can also directly start them out of the BrainAssistant, out of a running session. I will show you how. Just a quick reminder, the CPT and Stroop tests, they're the tests we use most, especially when creating our auto report. There's another webinar on how to create an auto report. So the CPT test, you need an Xbox controller and you either see a circle popping up on your screen or a square, and you're supposed to press the X button on your Xbox controller when you see a circle. So that is the CPT test. In the Stroop test, you see different words. Here you see a green but written yellow, and you're supposed with the Xbox controller to press yellow, so up. If it says mouse, cat, table in a certain color, go to the according color. If it says red written in red or blue written in blue, this is super easy, just go on the according color as well. So always the color the word is written in. Then another test is the Corsi block tapping test. So here we see different boxes and they're gonna flash shortly. So you're gonna start with gray boxes and then you have, for example, 2 blocks flashing up in yellow, and you have to select them in the correct order. If you manage to do that, then you see 3 blocks flashing up yellow. If you manage to get through this stage, then it's 4 blocks, etc. I'm going to show you later anyways. Then we have a math task. So you have to subtract numbers and then select the correct answer. I know some people, math is a little bit of a shaky legs with some people. So don't worry, you don't have to do math yourself. And the last one is a finger tapping test. So you have 3 turns per finger. So with your right hand, you have to press for 10 seconds per turn as fast as you can, the X button, and then with your left finger, the same. So these are the 5 cognitive tests we have. As I said, usually I use the CPT and Stroop with my first assessment, but of course the others can also make sense. And you can also use them without doing the entire QEEG recording. And now people gave me a feedback, or some people said, well, you know, the CPT, it's just press or no press. So, you know, what would you change there? How would you improve that test? And let's take a closer look. Actually, when you perform a CPT test, you see a circle on your screen or you see a square. So circle means action, square means no action. It's 80 symbols in total, so 40 circles and 40 squares. The distribution is 50-50, obviously, if it's 40 and 40, so 80 together. And we have a show duration of 1/3 of a second. And this is how long you can see the symbol, either square or circle. And we have a pause between the symbols. If you ever took a closer look at the graphics you see after performing the test, then you see between those bars, so green, red, or gray, there's a different space between those, because of course it shouldn't be a fixed rhythm, you see, so it's always randomized between 1 to 2 seconds pause between seeing a circle or a square. So if you think about it, actually this test is not as simple as it sounds. There's a lot you can, well, probably customize, and to take a closer look why you would change something, or some people want to change some things about it, I would say let's go, let's take a closer look. So I started my BrainAssistant already, so I have my John Child user, my demo client, and we don't actually even have to use a recording session creating a report. We can also use these tests, and this is what I'm going to show you, with a training session. So let's say you want to do a training. I'm going to start a training session. I select a protocol. I'm going to use this one. I'm running a background recorded session. Let's say I'm going to use a ZZ SMR training. So far so good, correct? So we have our signal running, and now would be the time where we're going to start a application and do a neurofeedback training with our client. But what we can also do is, instead of using here this flow symbol to start a test or eyes open, eyes closed segment, we can also, and this is where here we scroll down, we can use this so-called NAPS area. It's for nested applications. And if I press add, then I can select one of those 5 cognitive tests we have. So you see, you can also start tests before a neurofeedback session. So let's say you have a routine and you always want to do the CPT test before a neurofeedback session. You don't have to work with a flow that you create or anything. You can just say, okay, I'm recording this session. Let's do a CPT test. By the way, if this starts on the wrong screen, you see this is a little bit of a gray area, but the far end here, this is completely black. So if you double click on the black one, now jump to my screen, you see now it gets not full screen. So you can then drag it to the other screen. Now we see this is, if you've ever done the CPT test, this is what you're used to, right? You can do a test run or you can press start directly. And now let's check out what we can change. So if I go on this here on the left side, we now see, okay, the CPT test is running. So if we go on those 3 dots, we can either stop the test, remove it, or press configuration. And if I press configuration, now I'm in this menu. And it's actually pretty cool. I mean, the default is what I would recommend, but some people say either have a person where, they can't take it this long. I mean, 80 symbols, it's around 2 to 3 minutes, but some people say, let's just do 40, so 20 circles, 20 squares. Otherwise it's too long and they get impatient. Or some people say, I have people that get into the groove or they start failing towards the end. So I kind of want to know how this is going to look like with, 160 symbols total. So 80 and 80. So we could say show more symbols. Let's say, 120, for example. And now what we can also do is we could change the action required probability. So now it's 50-50, right? 0.5 means 50%. So if we would change this to, let's go extreme 10, 0.1, so 10%, then action required, so please press, action required is just 10%. So of course, let's make this easier. If I show 100 symbols, then just 10 means there's action required and 90 would be a square. So I think it doesn't make too much sense, at least in the beginning. I would leave it at 50-50. But of course, you can also say, I have a person that, of course, you can tell the person or you don't tell the person, and you say they have impulsivity control issues, and you can maybe go to, 30% action required. So you kind of, you're a little, not mean, but, you're a little provocative towards them and say, let's see, if they get impatient, if they get frustrated because they always see squares popping up instead of circles. So you can change this a little bit. Of course, most people leave it 50-50, but this is now something where you could maybe play around a little bit. Why would you change this? I think it makes, in some cases, it could make sense to say, let's show this, for almost 1 second, or you could even say an entire second. Why? When people are maybe too slow, you know, either you have kids and they can't manage, it's too stressful for them, or you have people that just say, I have attention problems anyways, or I'm very tired, so this is too hard for me. So before you cannot even perform the test, you could go a little longer here. And of course, then the minimum times between you see a new icon and the maximum time, you could also say, okay, this is going to be 2 seconds and 3 seconds. So you have a longer pause. So the entire test is a little bit more, relaxed. You know what I mean? So it's for people where you feel like performing the test would be too hectic. And now we also have icons. Remember, press when you see a circle, so a lens, and no action required when you see a square. Of course, you can also change this. At the moment, I'm recording this webinar, and you see here you can have a lot of different symbols. We will, sorry for that. We will also, lower them down to maybe 10 or 20 because this is just too many. So we'll work on that. What would be super obvious to maybe trick someone? You could just switch them, lens and square, right? So please press when you see a square. Please don't press when you see a circle. So when they've done the test a couple of times before, or you can just, I'm going to change it just to circle half. But you know, when you switch them around after they've done it a couple of times, you can also check their focus and say, no, just try to relearn basically. Test just one thing. This the instruction screenshot is a screenshot, so it will always show a circle and a square. So you kind of have to tell the person that. So we now changed to a different symbol. This can stay like this, and we changed the duration time. So I would say let's get ready to start the test. So when I press start, you're going to see that it's now a longer time. You see, if you're used to the test, this is very long. The time, this is now half a circle, not a full circle, and we didn't change the square, but you see it pops up for a longer time, 0.8 seconds. If you haven't done the test anyways, please do so. So much about the CPT. So you see you have quite a few options to change this. Let's now start with calculate, count from X to Y. I'm going to double click. So the test is quite not easy, but the test looks the following. When I press start, I have a math test and it says 303 minus 7. So then I have to, with my Xbox controller, select the correct one. So it would be this one. And then the task disappears. It's always completely minus 7, every time minus 7. If I press the wrong answer, it will help me. So if I then press the right answer, it will not help me until I make a mistake. Then it will help me again. So what can you change? And I will show you. Configuration. I can change the starting number, but now you're going to say, wait a second, it wasn't 300, Toby. Yes, it has a plus minus variation. So you never start at 300. So we kind of thought of that as well. And it has a target number when the test is over. And you can switch, for example, the count step. So you can say, nah, it's not 7. 7 is too hard. Let's use, I don't know, 3 or 5. And let's start at 100 and end at 10 or whatever you like. And of course, the answer amount, you can also go a little harder. It might take more time or a little easier on a person, just 3, for example. You can, of course, also go super hard with 10. I think you can play around with that a little and you will get the idea. So we can also use the Stroop test. Stroop test to just get you on board. So where is it? No, there are a lot of tests running in the background. So sorry for that. Here we go. Stroop test, you have your Xbox controller and you have to press, you see blue but written in yellow. So you have to press up for yellow. Yellow written in yellow is super easy. And dog written in blue is also very nice. We shouldn't change too much. It's a test that is normed, but we can change the amount of words. So it's usually 30, 30, 30, 30. So 30 neutral words like cat or house, 30 words that are congruent. So blue written in blue, yellow written in yellow, and 30 words like yellow written in blue or blue written in green. So you can just make this test a little shorter or longer if you want to. So maybe some people say, okay, I want to crank this up to, I don't know, 120 or, 180. So make this test a little longer and see how things go. Might be interesting for you. Okay. So new test, Corsi block tapping test. Just to show you the test for a second, if you press start, you're going to see blocks and 2 blocks popping up, a yellow 1, 2, this one. So we have to press in the correct order, and then commit and say, yeah, I think we're done. This was the correct order. Now it's going to be 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to press them in the wrong order. So it was this and then this block, but now I'm going to change the order, and now it's going to say, wrong. To be honest, if we check this one out, you can't really do anything. There are so many blocks. It's a normative test, so we decided you cannot configure anything. It would be too many blocks. So sorry for that. And finger tapping test. With a finger tapping test, what you have is when I press start, you place your right hand on the X button at the Xbox controller. When I start, there's a countdown, and now you have 10 seconds to press as many times as possible X on your controller. Obviously, give it all you got. And there's no countdown, so just go. And then you have 3 turns for your right hand, so 1 more 10 seconds, then 1 more 10 seconds. And then you switch to your left hand, and with the left hand, you do the same thing. So you can turn the Xbox controller a little bit. What can we change here? We can say, should it be 3 and 3 iterations per hand, or should it just be 1 and 1 and maybe more than 10 seconds, so longer time you press? So maybe if you have people with motorical problems, maybe you can say, you know what, we just do 1 with your left hand and 1 with your right hand, but I give you 30 seconds, so maybe they're a little slower, or they I don't know, maybe they hurt their hand and they just want to try a little bit, see the opposite, left to right. So here you can also play around a little bit. It's a pretty cool test for also motorical skill set. You can easily perform this before a session. It's not too long. So much about the tests that you can change them. Obviously, once the test is done, it's done. So now all those tests are running in the background. This is why this looks so crazy. Obviously, we can stop the segments. So now there's no orange running here, and you see the CPT is still showing symbols in the background. Okay, so much about those tests. Please just play around a little bit, and of course, once you press finish and save, then they're saved, and you can then easily create a report just showing those tests, right? So when I go on finish and save, then we can easily here go into the session, then go into report, and then here go on plus select here NAPs for nested applications, and then select the test you did. Let's say you did a CPT test, and just press PDF preview, and then you just have the CPT test, and you can say save and open report, and then you can print the report if you want to, and you just have the test. So also pretty cool if you spontaneously want to perform a test. So far so good. And now you see you can actually do a lot of customization if you want to. Of course, the default is pretty cool. If you change something, it will not mess up the default you have, so don't worry about it. Okay. Now, second part of the webinar, the protocols. So creating your own protocols, for some people, it might be new as well. So I'm going to show you a second how you can create your own protocols. So if you do training session, you say select protocol, choose the correct hardware mapping. You can here either start a protocol we built for you, or you can say create protocol. Protocol needs, of course, a name, right? So name of the protocol. And then we can give away tags, right? So let's say, oh, I want to do a focus protocol for activation and control. So you can later filter for protocols, so you'll find them. And so far, it's pretty straightforward. You say add, and I want to train theta on the position C3, and I want to train it up or down, right? Of course, you can also say I want to train it on C3 and C4. This would create a mean value, so theta C3 plus C4 divided by 2. If you want to train this on a different position, you can also go like this and like this. So now you have 2 different bars, so you can train them individually. This has been possible, or is possible already. So now what is the new advanced cool thing? the more people we have using the Brain Assistant, and it's quite a few, the more they, of course, have nice, cool ideas, the more they discover and do new brain mappings and stuff and read studies. So what they also ask us is this: how about a ratio training, theta beta ratio, for example, in the frontal area, right? So to lower theta, right? And to have more beta. If you have a ratio and the arrow is pointing down and you're not sure, should it go up or down? Let's say you have a number of 10 divided by 1, then the number is 10. If you have a number of 20 divided by 1, then you have a quotient of 20. So just make this one a 1, and then you know, okay, do I want the upper part to go up or down? In this case, theta should go down. So yes, I want to train theta down, then training this one down will train this one up and this one down. If this was too fast, this is just wrap your hand around it a couple of times and put in some numbers. We have some training protocols, pre-built protocols that already have this ratio. But now some people say, you know what? In your report, you have a high beta ratio for, are you in a super stressed mode or in a rather focused mode? I kind of want to train this one down as well, right? This would train high beta down and beta up at the same time, right? What is the advantage of a ratio? Because you could have high beta individually and beta individually. Well, you kind of have just to take care of one bar only. Maybe you want those two to work together. So, and also you analyze a ratio and then you want to train the ratio and then analyze the ratio again. So there are some arguments for it. Today is about showing you how to do that, because there is no high beta ratio in our protocols. Some people say, I want to train on a parietal area theta alpha ratio. What would this mean? This means less theta, more alpha. So don't drop too deep. Don't fall asleep, basically. Just drift off. Just stay in alpha mode. Or, now let's get super crazy. Some people say, I want to train on multiple positions, different ratios. So you kind of see, I'm going the way, hey, ratios would be pretty cool. So yes, we hear you and we're always happy about your feedback. So let's check. What can we do now? We can now say, let's delete this one. You see here are already ratios. They are pre-built, but if you scroll down, you see here it says ratio. So if you press ratio, we already have a position. So if you're missing a position, then this is gray. So you gotta enter a position at some point. Of course, you gotta say, do I want to train up or down? And now I would say it's hopefully pretty simple. You can say, what do I want on top? So let's say we want a high beta, mid beta ratio, right? And what did I say before? I think FZ. And we want to train like this. And you can now add another ratio easily, of course, and say this one was on this position and we wanted to train this ratio down, right? So less theta, more alpha. Now, if you're even more into some customization, and I think this is rather obvious, you can say custom frequency range, and you could say, you know what, I don't want this. I'm doing random stuff right now. Okay. 4 to 10. This is just a title. It could be anything, right? Here, X, Y, Z. And this frequency band is now 4 to 10. And of course, never forget to give it a nice, sweet color. And you see now we can even do custom frequency ranges. So now you have a ratio protocol. Of course, also I had this question before. You can, of course, still add single frequency bands, right? Here. So this, of course, is still possible. It doesn't have to be either or protocol. Yeah, I think this is a pretty cool way to also create fancy, cool protocols. So we're excited to hear what protocols you design and what you come up with. So far, we've also had individual calls, pretty cool ideas for ratio protocols. So I think this is going to be a game changer for some of you guys that reach out to us constantly and say, hey, this would be cool. So please always give us your feedback. So much about ratios. Today, I'm finally in a webinar and I'm on time, so I'm good in schedule. Now, question, when do we get these options? Some of you already have the option. There will be an update available either next week or in 2 weeks. If you haven't done your updates, it should be in your BrainAssistant anyway. So whenever here in the top bar, see here, there are no updates available in the current state. But if here it says update available, please always do so. So in 1 or 2 weeks, there might be a new update here available. So this will enable you to configure your tests and also do the ratio protocols. Maybe you already have the update. Now, I'm approaching the end of the webinar. So what is the next topic of the next webinar? The next webinar is going to be about Z-score training protocols. As you know, we already have training protocol, have Z-scores included in the BrainAssistant. So if you do a QEEG recording, then you already see Z-score analysis, so brain maps, heat maps with Z-scores. What you already have when you do a training session, let's say here we do a training session, you already have Z-scores. You see these tiny little bars here next to an amplitude. So these are already Z-scores that are displayed. They kind of need to just wake up a little bit here, but we still have an amplitude training here. And the next webinar is going to be about how you can use Z-score training protocols in our webinar, in our BrainAssistant. So of course, I'm going to explain shortly what Z-scores are, but then also show you how you can create your own Z-score protocols, but especially use Z-score training protocols in our BrainAssistant as well. So it's also included in our BrainAssistant. So hopefully you are excited about that. It's going to be end of June, June 26th. And we're going to send you an invite, of course, as well. Then I see you guys end of June. And have a good one. Bye-bye.